again. So first off, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. My name is TJ Stevens. It's really nice to see all of you once again. And once again, on that note, I am a student. I'm a senior at the University of Georgia. Hence, obviously, the nice little photo shoot I got to do with athletics. So some very nice aura of blasting I get to do at this conference because of that. So I'll absolutely take it. Also, it's kind of a weird feeling being the last presentation in the student block. I hope that you guys have gotten a lot out of this weekend. I know I have. So I kind of take it as an honor that we get to have a little bit of fun. I plan for this to be maybe 40% lecture, 60% I want to look at your pages. I want to talk about your pages. I want to roast you a little bit for the better good of your accounts. Sound good?
Yes.
All right, let's build your brand. And also the Slido link, go ahead and scan this, keep it up on one of your devices. And if you have any sort of questions and or concerns, feel free to drop that in as we go throughout the presentation. No changes based on the other ones that you've seen throughout the week. And we'll come back and I'll revisit some of them at the end before we start judging all of your social media accounts. So, everybody good? All right, let's do it. So, of course, I got to introduce myself yesterday during the panel. I'm very fortunate, but also very burnt out. I get to fill a lot of very, very cool roles and positions. I would say the one that I'm most proud about that I didn't get to talk about yesterday, I did get to give a TED Talk on accessibility in esports at the University of Georgia. That was in 2024, which is where a lot of these pictures are from. And I spend a lot of my time not only commentating esports with the leagues I mentioned in the panel yesterday, but I also have my first actual sports job this summer. And if everything goes well, I'll be working with the University of Georgia's athletics this fall in my senior year. But again, I get to do a lot. I was very fortunate as well to spend a semester with the guys at Concord University. And how many of you are familiar with the Rocket League team? Okay, good. Just a few here and there. So I was fortunate to spend time with them, got to run some RLCS runs with them. We qualified for Copenhagen, which is the kickoff land this past Rocket League season. And so I get to add professional coaching out of the bio. I also work with high school, middle school, and college kids in Fortnite as well. So I get to work with Epic, which is a good and a bad thing, as I'm sure many of you know. So before we even get into what is or building your brand, we have to obviously come to the same agreement on what is brand, period. So I'm not talking as much in this presentation about the marketing or the art design or the colors behind your account and your post. I'm also talking about when people say your name, when people go to your account, how do they perceive you? That's what we're focusing on mainly today. And I highlighted these two words because public image is a very obvious one. But also I believe it's very, very important to hold your identity very prevalent in your brand as well. I'm sure some of you probably saw the Twitter discourse last night about the awards. There is nothing wrong with being yourself and being willing to speak out, and we might talk a little bit about that as we go. But one of the biggest points I want you to get out of this, one of your biggest take-home notes from this presentation, should be that every single action that you take, that is your brand. That's how people perceive you, whether it's online, in person, on a stream. Anything and everything that is public facing, that builds your brand. And all it takes is one mistake to bring all of that down, which I'm sure that, again, we all know. But there is another kind of double-edged sword within this where sometimes all press is good press, which is a controversial point. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. And depending on how big of an account or a following or where you place yourself in the scene, then your actions change because of that. And I wanted to show a few examples from my personal social media accounts. Not to say that this is a perfect example, but I want to kind of give an example. And if y'all want to move and to see this better, feel free. So obviously back in 2023, I didn't really start getting a social media following until I started working with the University of Georgia's esports program and kind of running that. That would have been August in 2022. So I probably had maybe 400, 300 followers on X at this point, or Twitter at the time, I guess, rest in peace. And for me, it's like, I'm super thankful, I'm super grateful, I'm honored to be here, and I'm not saying you should stop being grateful if you blow up, blow up and act like you don't know nobody. I'm not saying all that. But, for example, in a post like this, like I'm highlighting my work with Ghost. These were all the Ghost ambassadors. So I highlight my work with Ghost. Even more Ghost ambassadors here. Me on the Ghost Twitch page here. And then me with my school there. So I try to highlight all the brands that I'm a part of to then boost my impressions. Versus now, I posted this in April when I came back into the director role within the club. Obviously, I just get to post back in the driver's seat, and I'm not. I talked with my fiance about this, who's filming, by the way. I should have said that at the beginning, but that's Ava. Everybody say hi, Ava.
Oh, why?
So she's filming, by the way. Your faces are not in it, but I want to clarify that. But with a post like this, we were trying to figure out a better word for it, but you kind of get to post more like you know who you are, and people should know who you are once you get to a point of following. Like this right here, I'm close to, I think 1.4 or 5K on X now, and so I post what I do, and I get to do a little short caption. I post my school account, and obviously the post did quite well, but I didn't put in half the effort I put in for the post like that got not even a fourth of the impressions, but still got a K. People appreciate that. But some things don't change, no matter how big or small that you are. So these are both posts from recently, but I want to use these as examples. I'm also sorry for the language up top. I'm sure that we're all cool with that. So this is like reactionary tweets. For example, the NACE Awards last night, right? If you're going to react and you want to make a funny comment, or if you want to make a very appreciative comment, or you want to say, I'm very proud of Full Sail for winning this, or St. Clair for winning this, that should never change regardless of your following. And so like for this, I have a Rocket League background. I want to be in the Rocket League scene. I comment under Rocket League posts. That has not changed ever since I made my account. And this one just happened to bang for some reason. It was a clip where 5UP had this crazy ceiling shot and put Akron to win the game over Boise State over there. I didn't even watch it live. I saw the tweet and I saw the clip and I was like, yeah, I'd be pissed. And then I tweeted that and it banged. I mean, 93K impressions, 600 likes for almost no reason. And then running my event at DreamHack. This post is the same I make every single year for DreamHack, regardless of how my account has been. Especially if you're a part of an event, it's, I'm working this event this weekend, or, shout out to these teams who came and visited, or these teams who came and competed, or what your post should all be after this convention is, how great it was to meet everybody at the NACE convention, this is what I got to do. Again, these posts do not change. Now, this kind of comes back to the point of being slightly controversial and being outspoken. Again, one of my big points and why I think NACE brought me in as a student was because I have a great history of conversation and building it online, and then I have a bad history of building conversation online. So, take a nice little look at my rant about Fisher at the end there. I'm sure as many of you might know, if you've been in the scene long enough, that I like to think I'm right. But it's not important. My opinion's not important when I post online. It's about what people perceive of my opinion. It's not about what I think if I'm right or wrong. But there's definitely some good and some bad out of a post like that. I think the big thing, for example, is, I can't believe that hundreds of us are struggling. That's a normal point. That's relatable. People like that. But maybe saying that I do 10 times the work of Fisher's director for free was not a good idea, right? Now, granted, that post did bang. That was actually my first tweet that got over 10K impressions, and I believe it had over 100 likes. And my school's student affairs board got a message from Fisher's school about it, and that put me in a little bit of hot water. So again, caution, because what you could do instead of this, and what I've learned over my years of building my own brand, is being a lot more professional with the way I do it. X, for example, put out this article feature where if you make a tweet long enough, it'll prompt to say, do you want to write an article? And so instead of saying, man, this Boise State, this is a conference championship in the Power Esports Conference, they claim it as a national championship. This is something that I'm sure many of you have seen across other platforms and programs. So instead of me saying, wow, Boise State, you're a bunch of frauds, it is more so, look, I love the program, but then I wrote this as an actual article to actually provoke discussion. And that's one of my biggest points, especially when we talk about where can you start, whether you're down the road in building your brand or whether you're trying to start from this conference. And again, it always comes back to not being afraid to speak out and not being afraid to be you. So who are you, what role do you want to fill, and what do you currently fill? All of those things are important. For me, I've always been a Rocket League guy, I've always been a sports games guy, I've always been a sports guy. So my replies, my posts, my comments are all probably 90% in reaction to Rocket League games or pro events or LAN events or players posts or recruitment announcements, or if, for example, the Wizards signed Trae Young for my Atlanta Hawks, I'll comment on that, even though I'm not too happy about it, because I want to build my algorithm as well. And that was one of the things that we talked about briefly in the panel up here, was that Twitter is kind of this very ugly cesspool of a lot of very bad things, but you can tweak your algorithm. I want to make sure I state that today, is that you can build it based on how you interact with the platform, and normally the amount that you give into the platform tends to be given back. But also, a lot of you, especially when we had some of our roundtable discussions, reminded me that me being in a club setting, I can get away with posting a lot. I can call out a grown man with a salary at Fisher, and I got away with it. But many of you, your varsity programs, we're talking about getting banned out from your program. We're talking about losing a role on a team. So the big thing for a lot of you guys as well is to know what is allowed within your contracts that you sign or your scholarships that you sign. Know what you're allowed to post on, and kind of if your account has a huge following, don't be afraid to play off of that. For me, I'm in the School of Journalism, and even though I don't know all of the big admin, like when I go to post about speaking here, I'm going to tag the University of Georgia, I'm going to tag the Grady College of Journalism. Now, they may never see it, but sometimes they reposted it. Again, impressions, that's me on a main school account, that's all really, really good press. So know your school and your program, not just obviously your esports program. And for a lot of you, if you have a program, or I guess maybe actually not a lot of us, there's only so many of us who have a big account following like a St. Clair or a Northwood or a Winthrop that we can kind of play off of. But in using your school account, you get good press associating yourself in the collegiate realm, but also you help your school's accounts as well. And also, are you more of a community program or are you more of a competitive program? For example, I don't expect to see some of us tweet about running events, coming to conferences, the same way I would see maybe players tweeting about the event. Or maybe, for example, like St. Clair guys who are not here right now, but they're normally coaches. So whenever you see them comment under things, it's going to be more about competition. I'm so proud of XYZ result we got in an event. Or I guess just anything that has to do with their players or anything like that, versus where most of us will say, you know, like what an honor it was to be surrounded by so many great people. The NACE convention provided me with these things. You talk more about the talks that were kind of about character or team building. You know, that's the community versus competitive look, and again, shaping your algorithm. And again, it's important to know your target audience, because for many of us, we're not only trying to cater to everybody in this room and the students across the nation, but we're also trying to get up in the world, trying to get a job position, or trying to get involved with brands and land events, etc. So a lot of my tweets are very variable. It kind of comes back to tweets like this, where that tweet on the left, I don't tweet that for my professors. I don't tweet that for anybody who's above the age of 40 or something like that. So I tweet that to be relatable. I tweet that to be myself, to be fun, to be a student. And that's very, very important to have both. But then those last 2 points, talking about upper faculty and workforce, that varies, and it's very important that you post about that as well. Like for me, running a club at the University of Georgia, yes, I can post and I can curse a little bit here and there and I can have fun, but I shouldn't be directly calling out universities. And again, my student affairs very quickly talked with me about that whenever I tweeted about Fisher. So this is one of the hardest lessons to learn. But if you're trying to get into the workforce, it's the same thing. So for me, if you go through my replies, for example, if I ever see an event that has anything to do with Call of Duty, Valorant, Rocket League, any game that I'm semi-comfortable casting, my first reply under it is always, do you need casters? Do you need producers? And again, we talked about it in the panel yesterday as well, is not being afraid to send out a message, but for the sake of my talk and my conversation, don't be afraid to throw replies out, and people will see you looking for work, and then they'll be prompted to look at your page and hopefully take interest or reach out to you from there. So I wanted to very quickly look at a few examples before we kind of get into the rest of things. It's only 9:20, so we have plenty of time. How many of you know who Bass from the Past is? Okay, great. So Bass is a very, very prevalent community figure and also is a caster. And granted, with a page like this, we're going to kind of roll through these questions so that I can put it into work with your page. So somebody, I don't care who, just raise your hand, tell me what do you notice first about who is Bass? Go for it.
Then in content related to the large text page.
Yeah.
It also has like the links and apps where you can find them.
Yeah, so job role and not only the use of a big name brand, which this is no different than us saying our schools, but also tagging the company directly. Again, we can do that with our schools as well. It's an easy way for impressions. What about those other few bullet points? Go.
Producer. Yeah, the DM's open and there's business inquiries. That way you can find it easily and be able to contact them when needed.
Yes, and this is one of the biggest things that I want everybody to get out today. If you do not have a business email or a extra email or any email that you have attached to your social media for easy contact, that has to absolutely be changed today. Now, granted, you don't even have your birthday in there. The join date's automatically on there. We don't care about that. But you get his role. he talks about he's part of Champ League, which is a podcast on collegiate Rocket League. So that kind of gives off his casual / community side. And then, of course, producer by day, caster by night. Nice little line there just to show that he can do both. And then, of course, if you're actually intrigued in getting him to work, then you can reach out to him right there. And even scrolling through some of his tweets here, it's the same type of thing. He's got a huge following. He's got 4.2K, which is good for esports. And right here, his pin tweet, very appreciative. It's like the post that I was talking about at the very beginning that should really change. You know, if you get to a certain point, or you make an accomplishment, you can always tweet about that. But then his very next tweet down is a reactional tweet. And there's nothing wrong with that. He wants his account to be personal, he wants his account to be relatable, he wants to also be likable because, again, he's trying to be a community figure in the scene. And so that's kind of right there. You see a very nice tweet, a reactional tweet, and then an almost journalistic type of tweet right after that, talking about the transfers within collegiate Rocket League. And he's done all of that within the last day. These were actually within 2 hours. So being able to switch between and those gears is very, very important as well. So that also answers what does he care about? He cares about Rocket League, right? All the stuff's about Rocket League and esports, so we get that. And then we'll come back to reposts in a bit because I also want to jump on over to my student-led program. So you click on ours. Obviously, this one's a little different. Okay, or it doesn't work, that's fine. Okay, I guess we're doing this manually. But for a program like mine, again, same thing. What's first thing that jumps out at you? Raise your hand. Anyone can speak.
Colors, actually.
Yeah, so we have a very, very expensive graphic design guy who actually just transferred away to the University of Oklahoma. But we have a brand guy. So this is now an example where, obviously, if you're running a school account, then the marketing actually applies, and so that jumps out. What else?
It's the same kind of rundown, but especially emphasizing the official Twitter of the UVA sports.
Yes. So obviously with brands changes, school accounts changes. In terms of action you could take from looking at this.
I have to see their pin tweet with those links on them correctly. They are in like their force to be reckoned with, so looking for any organization coming up, so you have like that right there. That you did show them.
Yeah.
Direct.
Yeah. And this is the same point as any sort of highlight or job that you get or event that you've ran. Your biggest highlight should be your pin tweet. And I'll go over my account as well, and we'll talk about that. Because mine changes based on what event I'm running. I update mine. For example, when we get to DreamHack season, I'll post about the groups, I'll pin that. Then I'll post the schedule, I'll pin that, and then I'll normally start running it under. That way when people are intrigued, click on one, then they see the rest. But obviously our whole account is very informational. So this is a little different, but for your school accounts, and especially for those of you going back to your programs, trying to help out your social media teams, very, very important to keep the branding, which that's just marketing 101, I'm sure most of us are very familiar with. Keep your branding very similar. We're very big on all caps and emojis. We're very, very big on the exclamation point emojis, as you can tell, and that right there is another one of my biggest points as well, is being consistent. I'll actually ask this as well, what does our account care about?
Information.
Yes, that's a good one answer. There's more.
Results. of
Yes,
the team.
be competitive, right? Anyone want to add anything?
It looks like trying to draw community engagement, especially encouraging them with Discord.
And that's one of the big things that we focus on and that we all can focus on is being involved with students, running events with students, working with students. And so, you know, whenever you come to our page, we try to be very open, right? We have a link tree, we have our email, and obviously join the Discord. And that's no different than you posting your email, what you do at your school that shows that, again, you're more of an open face. And again, having an email there as well. You don't have to worry about, obviously, location, stuff like that. So, again, I want to keep that pretty quick because the big thing that I really want to do is, and we're going to look at your pages, but also to kind of keep things from a note-taking perspective in a straight line. What does major success actually look like? So obviously interaction and activity is great. If we can get impressions, that's great. But for us trying to be seen as students, you're looking for comments, you're looking for discussion. We could care less about the total likes you get. For example, especially on X, you can see a post with 600 likes and 20 comments. That's not what we're looking for. I'd rather have 15 comments and 10 likes because I'm engaging different people, and the more people I interact with, the more feeds I can get on, and so on, it increases my visibility. And that's kind of on the same note about that engagement, but also making connections as well. I haven't talked a lot about LinkedIn because it's a lot more straightforward, but I'll give some rules of thumb for that before we get out of here as well. Again, looking for those connections, looking for engagement. If you're able to have a conversation with somebody on X and you can get a follow out of it instead of an argument out of it, that is a art in its own way. And I've definitely done both. And that's the way the platform's going to roll sometimes. And then doing all of that together and kind of being seen by so many people, being recognized by so many people because you're interacting, because you're commenting, because you're leaving replies, that's building a network. Especially, again, commenting under events. Like if Logitech's going to tweet out that they're running an event and you want to cast it, even if they never look at your tweet, somebody's going to see it. Some other college might see it. Somebody who's looking for a racing games caster and or a Logitech does a lot of adaptive stuff as well. If they're looking for a caster, they're going to see your tweet and they're going to see your aspiration to work with a bigger brand, which is more professional than just waiting for people to see you first. And of course, again, I keep on stressing it, and I have it stressed here. Please be yourself. There's no need to shill for any group. There's no need to start putting out paid tweets unless you're making a bag, like a Raid Shadow Legends type of thing, that you do you. But again, don't be afraid to be a little controversial and stand up for what you believe is right. Again, I use the example of me talking about Fisher, because that example, even though it did bring me a lot of flack on the UGA side, it absolutely threw my account into the mainstream for collegiate esports. And all of a sudden, through all the DMs and the comments and people reaching out to me directly, then I started to build my network. And that's when my account really started to take off from there. So don't be afraid to be yourself overall. So this is the fun part, where obviously we are going to get to talk about some of your pages. Now, as I let you guys think about your pages, and if you want to get roasted and or critiqued, whatever way you want to think about it, I'm going to look at the Slido very quickly and see if the Wi-Fi will actually work with me, because I would love to answer some good questions. I will say this, since it's not loading, if anybody has any questions you want to ask that you didn't get on the Slido, go for it now. Okay, cool. Let's try and open this up then. See if they actually set mine up. Y'all don't have any issue finding mine, correct?
Nope.
Okay, cool. All right, so it seems like Q&A wise we're pretty good. So that's cool. That's fine, and we can workshop this for the next 20 minutes. That's more than fine by me. So I teach a lot better with my students, with the high school and middle schools I work with. I teach a lot better by actually showcasing and going through personal accounts and then getting to talk about those rules with them. So we can either get a Twitter or a LinkedIn from the group. Who wants to be first? You know what, let's do yours first, Brooks.
Yeah.
I think yours would be a good example. So give me your @
I think it's just Boondog.
I think it is too. There we go. All right, so let's look at Brooks for example. So now, anybody other than Brooks, name one good thing, one bad thing that you see off rip.
You can see the organizations he's affiliated with through the apps. You have B4 WSU, sorry, I'm farsighted. So
You don't gotta name them directly, don't worry about it.
and NACE. They have all those right there. I mean, he's getting graduated soon.
Yeah, well, and he updated it already because he won an award, so congrats to you, Brooks, for
Thank you.
that as well. So already you see the groups that he's with, and you see the type of person that he is because he's won an award. Now that's obviously a more upper echelon of what we're talking about today. That's why I wanted to start with Brooks. And obviously if we go through Brooks' account, you're a more competitive player. That's what your focus is at Wichita State, and so obviously your pin tweet, huge accomplishment, getting to qualify for league play. I mean, an absolute nightmare run, but using schools' names and then tagging your teammates, tagging your school, tagging the league, building impressions, reacting to a tweet that was put out by a bigger organization, Sheep Collegiate. Well, they had more following. I forgot they actually used a new account, so I take that point back. But you know, very competitive, and then we get to a conference type of tweet. It's an incredible honor. I think I said that almost word for word about the way that we should be tweeting about this event. It's an honor to be here. I'm looking forward to XYZ, and for Brooks specifically, you want to have a greater impact on the development of your industry. So that positions you as a upper level thinker, a community thinker. That's what I get from reading a post like this. And then obviously you get funny stuff like this. I'm sure, how many of you haven't seen this video? Okay, I'm gonna play it just because I want to. If the audio works. If it doesn't, I'm gonna be really sad. But, okay, well, anyways. So you can do both, and there's nothing wrong with that. And people will look at something like this, and again, as a student, I know Brooks is a funny guy. I know he's got taste because it's a damn good song. And also, he's supporting his friends. You know, that's what you worry about reposting. You repost your school's posts, just because that's like the right thing to do. We see you like Destiny too. That's a negative, unfortunately. And obviously, you comment on sports as well. And me and Brooks have had a lot of Twitter discussion. Our accounts are very similar. And so again, it's a really good example of doing both. And that's why I want to start with his. Who wants to be next?
I got Twitter.
So you do or don't?
Twitter.
Okay.
At mpg_a_casali.
You said MPG?
At mpg_a_casali. CASALE.
COS?
CAS.
CAS, I see it.
Yep.
Alright. Thank you for the follow.
No problem.
Okay, now somebody other than him. Give me one good thing, one bad thing. No right or wrong answers.
I think we get to know his exact niche, especially from that Smash community lens, getting the vibe that it's going to be a very competitive heavy profile.
Not to mention the Metafy link as well. We know that he's a coach. Obviously, he's a Mega Man main. That's a negative, unfortunately. But having your rank in there and having your program in there is great. And then let's go and actually look through your reposts and your posts. Again, pop culture, interacting with that, nothing wrong with that. Funny enough, being a Mega Man main, this is fitting. Again, this is all just kind of like pop culture. Obviously, still interacting with Smash Bros. Oriented things. But also, again,
I post less active than I used to. I think it's the thing nowadays.
You cannot throw this at me. But again, there's nothing wrong with this because if I'm a brand looking through, I would rather see the duality and the ability to be a community face and to also be a competitive face rather than just simply boring competitive tweets all the time. I also just did see one of the questions come through on the Slido, and this is a good one actually. Tips for people that do not necessarily want to be perceived on the internet. And for that, I think a lot of that depends on what you want to do. I personally believe that you can get away in this field without having an X account. Do I heavily recommend it? Yes. But if your LinkedIn is professional and you don't mind posting on your LinkedIn, I do think that's an absolute minimum. Especially if you're looking for jobs, period. And I think that's just a good life skill to have. So maybe you can forget X, but a really good question because if your work doesn't want to be, or doesn't need to be perceived, then you obviously don't have to worry about half of these presentations. So, good question. All right, who wants to be next?
Maybe Savage Dad.
Yo.
We're skipping. We'll come back.
Yo.
We'll do yours.
So it's ISYPHZ.
PhD.
Yeah.
Go. Thank you for follow back. All right, so let's go through yours. All right, one good thing, one bad thing from somebody other than him.
I like when people on social platforms, especially like X, like utilize their name in an action type of way, like talking about how like going to NACE, right? Like I think that's a really easy way, especially when you're scrolling and it comes up in like a suggested format that like you can understand, okay, this is an individual involved in the space. Obviously, if they're coming to the convention, like at a more elevated involvement level.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I actually didn't include in my presentation. Obviously, if you're going to an event, adding it to your Twitter handle on top of making a post about it, a very, very good touch, especially when you're interacting with people at this convention, they go to your account, they know it's you because they have that verification. What about any negatives? Any critiques? We're not going to fight each other at the end of this, so don't be afraid to take a stab at
So
it.
I could think of one in this my
Go-
profile.
That's
I would
fine.
say like I know there's a lot of people like at their stuff, but like I don't add it because I like everything to look uniform, so I put everything in lowercase. So like, I was
Yeah.
like that's just me.
Well, and that's a marketing decision. There's nothing wrong with that. It's you treating yourself like a brand. The only thing that I think should be tagged is the USAE work.
Okay.
I think that's an important association. I think that's an important brand to try and latch onto. And I think there's a really good community around what USAE is doing. So I think that's a little bit different. Now, granted, obviously, if you're a fan of Cloud9 and a Valorant fan, you don't need to tag them. But I do think that if you're actually associated with a team, or you're working with them, I do think having them tagged, especially of that size, that's why it's very important.
I was gonna say, one of the things I've always heard, especially from people that are professionals in the industry, or not professionals in the professional industry, in the collegiate space, if you have anything anime or another sports player that is not you in your profiles, and you have a profile that people will view all the time, you gotta change it. Because people, I don't know what it is, it's kind of the same thing where, like, I know competing, like if your profile picture is an anime thing, eventually people are like, okay, that's corny. Because I did it, and I'm saying this because this was me. I forget what my profile picture was on Twitter for a while, but it was something that was not me. But yeah, so any public facing profile. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
do
my
agree with
goal,
that.
though.
I do agree with that. I think regardless of your favorite show or anime or movie, or regardless, if you are at a conference like this, a convention like this, and you're trying to work in our space, I do think that both your profile picture and your banner need to be professional. Whether it is a banner of you at your school, which I think mine used to be or was. I'll jump to mine very, very quickly and let's see real quick here. Like for me, obviously I have myself and then I have my org, like that's a tag banner, that's different. Or if your banner is just you at work, I think as long as it is you, period, that's a very, very good touch. Does anybody want to add anything else before we keep things moving?
What if it's, based on my profile, what if mine's like direct, like, original character work that I use, that's like for branding and marketing that I use, is that okay, even though it's not directly me, and people know me as a player, like, more in person?
Well, if it's your art, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your art. If you have a talent like that, then yes, you should absolutely use it. But also make sure that if, like, for example, like if you drew this banner, right? I would hope that you leave your artist mark and your name in one of the corners, something like that, because that's.
No, it was commissioned, like, for the brand,
Oh,
stuff
okay.
like
Well,
that, but
Can
that's
you
fine.
That's
refresh
fair.
it and see if that like would be better?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's make it. Let's make it.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, that was scripted, bro.
Hey, all right. I did not plan that, I swear.
But do you think that's better though?
So yes, I do think it's better because actually I'm gonna quiz you. Why do you think it's better first, and then I'll let you know.
Well, originally I changed it because like I don't really play chamber as much anymore. Like for
We don't
now.
care. We don't care about the
Nah,
memory.
yeah, I know, but maybe I was getting in my own head. But like I think that one was just like my gamer tag and then like all my socials. So
That's the point I'm getting at. Is that not only, and if you have a link tree, great. But if people are scrolling through your page, you know, the odds of them clicking on a link versus seeing that and remembering that, that's a hard ass banner.
okay.
So don't be afraid to use that. Now, the only other thing I will add as well, and I'm curious to get the room's feelings on this. I think that putting gamer in your job description on Twitter, I am not a fan of it.
Okay, so remove that.
But if anybody wants to contest that, I would love to hear a conversation about it.
I think it's funny how they use that.
That's fair. And honestly, for a tournament organizer, I'm not opposed to it because your role is super, super community based and oriented. But also, I think that if there was, because I think Twitter lets you put your own jobs in there. If you want to put tournament organizer, I think that'd be a nicer touch. Now, granted, things would start getting a little crowded in that bottom line because it would obviously start putting all these different things together. So I think yours gets a rare pass. But for rules of thumb, I would put an actual. Not saying gamer isn't an actual job at an esports conference, obviously, but I do a little more. But obviously, you're doing good. You have over 1,000 followers. That's really good for a student in our space. So, again, I want to go to another name. I would love to have somebody who does not have over 1,000 followers.
Anchor2 _.
Did you say Anchor?
INKER
You said what?
2 _.
All of mine, bro.
I understand. Okay. So again, good point. Now, again, this might be another rare exception because I'm already seeing off the rip here. I'm seeing that you work with Splatoon, and so because you're in the Nintendo scene, and I say this as a compliment and as an insult, Nintendo fans are insane.
Yes.
So because of that, I don't mind the Mario profile picture because there is again a hard ass banner up top. As long as there is one of the two, then there's some passes that can be dished out because your role, again, is more community focused. You're working directly with students all the time and running your own teams. You're trying to be a commentator and a TO. Again, super, super community focused, which is why I don't mind this. The only recommendation off the top side of your profile that I might suggest would be because if you're trying to be a commentator, I might throw a headshot in there because that is no different. And I hate saying it like this because it makes me look egotistical, but like commentating and modeling.
No, yeah,
We're
I
kind of in a
agree,
similar
I agree.
boat. Like you have to advertise yourself and your looks and all that. As weird as that sounds, so we're gonna keep moving. Any good thing, bad thing? Anybody wants to add before we talk about some of the reposts and posts?
Kind of mentioning, because I know it was kind of relevant on your page earlier. If you want to get into like, at least we had this talk with a Smash player, because I know Smash players, you guys like dive into like the full PR stuff and whatnot. If you want to do like commentary, to me, if I'm seeing all the other stuff like specifying things within Splatoon, like it's relevant to you, but then the more you specify towards that, then you kind of drag yourself, and like for Smash, you drag yourself into, I'm a Smash player. So like it's good to put that you do the other stuff in there, but then the more you specify like the ranks and what you're doing in your PR and all those games, then you kind of like tie yourself down. Like if I were to put SSL Rocket League in mine first thing, then I'd be like, okay, that's what I do for Wichita State, I just play. So that's just a thought.
Yeah, and that comes back to the community versus competitive nature too, is that where do you want to be on that line? I don't mind how you have yours lined out because it does a little bit of both. And again, you're trying to be a commentator, but you also run your program with Splatoon there. And of course, obviously Battle for Florida won. Congratulations. Unrelated, damn good event. I watched the whole thing live. You guys did incredible with that. So again, reposting that, that's a huge accomplishment. Now, pop quiz. What could you have done? You can answer or somebody else can. What could you have done instead of just reposting?
I could quote post.
And you should be quote posting. What did you get to do about Florida?
I mostly was doing day of stuff. You know, like I have.
What does that mean then?
No, this is a good PR lesson.
but I was
We can
gonna-
throw all that under
But I was
one
gonna
hand.
like, I would give you your props for doing all the setup stuff, like getting sponsors, all that stuff. But then, I was the one that was there on the day of meeting teams, leading them, showing them where the places that I had to be, and yeah, just making sure everything was moving.
Which for a commentator.
Oh, I did also. Oh yeah, that's right. First match. That's true. I did cast match.
So my issue is that instead of you saying that and sharing your involvement with one of the best events of the year, obviously an award-winning event now, we're missing all of that. I have no idea what you did in this event. And this comes back to the panel yesterday again, is that you should always, it's not egotistical to talk about what you did in an event, as long as you are also ending that tweet with, obviously, I have the best team in the world, South Florida's awesome, this land was awesome, shout out to the teams. You can be appreciative, also be egotistical in the same tweet. So, especially if you did day of work for event management, you commentated, you basically TO'd by guiding the teams around. I need at least some of that, but it should be all of that in a quote retweet.
I was personally curious. My account is pretty private in general, so I'm just curious. If Battle for Florida they won the award and stuff, would it be kind of good to post maybe ride that high in terms of like posting like maybe clips during the event? Be like, oh, this is what I did. This is you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, well, and for his account specifically, I would love to either, there's two options here. You either, and this is also rules of thumb that I was told y'all was gonna get into. If you're gonna post videos, you post one video. Do not post 2, 3, or 4. And if you're gonna post more than one thing, it's 4. Because Twitter just simply does not orient it well. It's always in a grid. So you either post 4 photos, in my opinion, 1 photo, or 1 video when you post on X. So I would have loved to see either 4 photos, if somebody got some of you guiding teams around or casting, or 1 video, a clip, especially if it was the grand finals. Do I understand that right?
Yeah, we definitely.
I'd rather have a clip. I'd so much rather have a clip. Or if you really want to get into it, then you should have spliced the clips together and have this ready to go to post either after the event or in case of a situation like this. Because having a clip like that, or a compilation of clips like that, only does you better because it's like a mini casting room, right?
Yeah.
And we can kind of use that for everything. And then again, going through competitive tweet, you repost your player, makes perfect sense. Obviously some community things here and there, funny tweet in Splatsville. Forgot that was even the name of the place. I haven't played Splatoon in so long. And then, of course, just some more community tweets here and there. Okay, also, congratulations on that. So again, good achievement. So actually, let's sit on this tweet a little longer. I know we're running out of time a little bit. Give me a good thing and a bad thing about the way he celebrated this. I want to get really in depth here.
There's not many buzzwords besides affiliates, so it's not gonna push the algorithm in regards to Twitch.
I would say like hashtags.
I go back and forth. I personally have not had success with hashtag on X. If your experience is different, we can talk about it after because I'm curious to learn. But me personally, I haven't had much
I
success.
think the way he starts the tweet off is probably the biggest one, because like discuss more about the model, and that kind of leads to that, and then he goes into like, oh hey, I got affiliate by the way. So it kind of like leads away from the core message where it should have been starting off like, oh I got affiliated, and then like plugging the stream or something like that, and like saying I'm very happy with the community I built, and that way you're able to go and follow that more on Twitter.
It downplays the achievement, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think we all agree on that.
Also, another thing, I feel like if you're going to like do something like this, it's just like you saying downplay, but like yeah, I guess just playing stuff. I also forgot what NACE is.
That's fine, don't worry about it.
There's no call to action, is what I meant to say. Like,
Which, pop quiz for you now, since you brought that up. What should the call to action be? What should it
like
look
how
like?
to get involved with the community, the Discord, the Twitch, like, plug the links.
And where should those links be?
Ooh.
Give me your best guess.
I don't know, I'm doing a hard return, put it in the second line.
Somebody want to add the right answer, maybe?
I see people like have a tweet and then like the first comment is the link.
Why do people do that?
Because it's like the first thing that will pop up, I think, or.
Does someone take a stab at that?
I think it like directly hinders the algorithm. because
Yes.
Then what
Yes.
it does, it looks like an ad at that point.
Yes.
And like if you're already on the page, it's like, oh hey, you're looking at the tweet already. If you scroll down the comments, hey look, the link's right there.
But if you don't click into it, you never see it.
But also it does, that is a fact though. The algorithm will significantly bot your tweet. It'll mark it as a bot tweet if you keep links in your main
I
post.
didn't know that.
Which, how many of you didn't know that? Raise your hands. Okay, good, we're learning something. So yes, very, very good points. Thank you three for bringing that up. Any other thoughts on this tweet?
I feel like I remember what I was gonna say. I feel like having your thing towards the front, like people kind of like when I'm on Twitter, I just be like skimming, and then if I get bored, I kind of just keep scrolling because I have an attention span like a toaster. But I want to read like what the achievement is at the very beginning rather than the end, because like I mean that's what people look for. Like, people are just scrolling.
So how would you format that?
So it's like finally got to feel like probably using like capitalizations, maybe like you could use emojis, bro, like to
Yeah.
catch my eye or something.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Especially in today's day and age.
I'm just so like, yeah, this is kind of sad how quick I am, but like, that would get me. You know, I would actually read it and be like, yo.
But also, adding on to that, that should be one line. And then your thoughts on it should be a line spaced and then your thoughts on it. That way it brings all the eyes, all the attention to, I got affiliate, alongside the image, and then all of your mushy thoughts and thank yous can go in the middle. Does all that make sense for
No,
feedback?
yeah, that was all really good and all made sense.
Great, all right, I want to keep things moving because we're going to go basically to 10 at this point. I'm going to talk very briefly about LinkedIn, and then I'm going to bully somebody's LinkedIn. Because my LinkedIn is not my strong point. Now granted, even though my LinkedIn is not my strong point, I do have a lot of connections. I think I'm sitting somewhere at like, there we go.
LinkedIn warrior.
Yeah. Okay, all right, don't blaze now, it's 9 a.m. But there are some positives and negatives I like about my LinkedIn. Before I get into connections and how to build those connections very easily, I got a little hot tip for that. One good thing, one bad thing about my LinkedIn. I'm not gonna fight you after, do not worry. I prefer a critique, if anybody notices anything, and then I can point it out if we don't see one. Anyone wanna take a stab? Okay, so my big thing is I fill a lot of roles, right? And for me, I should probably be better at prioritizing these roles. So obviously, sportscaster and host, esports director at UGA, that's great. And on LinkedIn, you do not tag your institution because whenever you go to put your education, it'll put it right here, and wherever you're working, it'll put it right next to it. Now, granted, there is nothing mentioning I'm an ambassador for KCP. That's one of my big important jobs. That should probably be in there. And this is kind of like in my opinion, it's a little bit of a cop-out. It's a little bit of kind of a just catch-all. What's another big involvement that I had that I talked about a lot yesterday that is not in here?
DreamHack.
Thank you. So my DreamHack involvement is not in here at all. Now granted, if you scroll down into my LinkedIn highlights, my featured tab, then you will see it. You have to, scroll through. But again, you have to scroll through to get to that point. So I could probably do better at that. Also, does anybody here not know how to use featured posts on LinkedIn? Or is that good? Okay, how to make sure. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say like they kind of like play like devil's advocate. DreamHack is kind of like a seasonal thing, and I feel like unless you're going to like all 3 international events, it does kind of like a once a year kind of thing. So you can't really, I don't really fault you for that.
Well, and I think I get away with that because I have the following to get away with that.
Yeah.
Again, as egotistical as that sounds. I think because I have people who know what I do, I can not include it. But for example, if I had 100 connections,
Yeah.
I should absolutely include it. That's what I'm talking about. Obviously, the feature tab is a really, really useful thing. Any post that is remotely important about what you do should be here. Like this post right here is not even about me winning an award. It was actually about me being nominated for an award, excuse me. And this was just me kind of panhandling for votes. But it's also a big achievement because I'm up there with a lot of big names, big faces, and that was a big award for me. But also, even though it's LinkedIn, I can also throw in a competitive tweet. And I can throw in, or not a tweet, sorry, I can throw in a competitive post. And LinkedIn actually does a really good job of formatting your videos and photos. I don't have any hot tips on how you should do that. And yes, I do play college football competitively. I hate EA. How many of you saw the Saudi deal went through yesterday, officially?
Hey, no shot.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday, and I saw a tweet literally an hour after saying that it's officially passed all regulations.
Oh, okay.
So there's your news break from a journalism major. So anyways, we'll see how that goes. So that's LinkedIn, basically. Now, here's my big thing for LinkedIn. And again, this really brings it all into a bow with the panel. It is all about constantly not being afraid to connect. So before I even get into all of this, and I talk about that, that's crazy. Hey, that's initiative though. That's initiative. I know.
Let's take a look.
Now, so hold on, this is an important point though, because I make that connection, right? And the moment I click connect on one person's name, I get a brand new tab talking about some of her connections that I might know. So for example, there's Elizabeth who spoke yesterday. I'm out. I'm gonna go ahead and you know what? Screw the note. Because I met her yesterday, right? Now, would I recommend sending a note? That comes back to the panel yesterday. What was important about how we should talk to people, how we introduce ourselves?
We should introduce ourselves like after the event, that way everything's pulled down, and that way it's like, hey, like we talked during this point, and that way they get everything else else before then, so we're not just like on their tail.
True. I'm more so trying to get to people that we haven't met in person. How should we introduce ourselves?
Definitely looking at their profile and then asking a question. Like the biggest thing was like asking questions, not just being like, hey, this is me, like it was fun to be a fit, but like actually getting them to answer a question and get more of a response.
Yeah, and you gotta keep in mind, especially for people like Elizabeth who are at Face It, like they're probably getting a lot of DMs about something that doesn't even matter, or boost my account, or unban me. So if you're actually willing to be educated and to have an educational conversation, like Elizabeth and our panel said, that goes a very, very long way. But again, also like you just saw, don't be afraid to just send that connection and go from there. But also, instead of scrolling a TikTok, for example, or scrolling Reels or anything like that, I have somehow managed to fine-tune a way to doom scroll LinkedIn. And hear me out here, this is one of my big things I want to get out of today. I will sit here for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, and for example, if I see anything that remotely interests me, I will throw a connection. But I'm not looking at students. I'm not looking at my fellow students, because for what I want to do, which is broadcasting, working with brands, traveling to events, yes, if I know some of these guys in person, then I'll add them. But for example, like Zucker here, who is obviously with NFLPA, Chargers, Georgia football, okay, well, we got that in common. Obviously, go Dogs. I can play off my school's loyalty there. And then if I want to keep going down, then it's going to continue to recommend connections you might know. So for example, let's talk about, here is another fellow caster, content creator. I'm fine with that. And then going even further down the list, I see Riot Games, brand creator marketing, done. I will sit here and anything that's remotely interesting to my field or what I want to do, I'll click connect. And whatever happens, happens. And if I get a connection, great. And if I don't care. Because at the end of the day, I'm building a network. And then this tab does a lot of really good things as well. The general LinkedIn suggestions are pretty good. So obviously like NACE, great conference, love what they do, fine with that. If I see something, for example, like I'm sure that Layla's a great person, but hostess at a country club, not something that I feel like I need to connect with. And same thing here, ticket operations at Mercer University, but how about another caster? How about esports operations? How about another fellow teacher and educator and a coordinator, right? Just like that. And that could be 7 connections in the span of just a minute or 2. And that philosophy, that kind of strategy, that's one of my biggest tips to give you, because that's how I got to this right here. It's just by adding people as we go. And that's the simplest way to master LinkedIn. And then if you're going the extra mile to have DMs, have those conversations, I absolutely recommend that. I could do a lot better at that, but at the end of the day, LinkedIn and connections, impressions in the form of engagement and a network, that's what's important on a platform like LinkedIn. We probably got time for one or two more. Somebody give me their LinkedIn.
Sophia Martinez Sierra.
Trinity.
You say Trinity?
Yes.
Whoops.
No need to yell.
This one right here? Okay. One good thing, one bad thing. I'll take either or. I'd move quick, we don't mind.
Good thing, I like how like the header kind of relates to what they do.
Yeah. I
think
mean,
that
works in production, use your school's facility, it looks great, and a headshot.
I think it's covering the bad thing about it is covering the face, because you want to like kind of sell who you are.
In production, I agree with that.
Like, unless you're looking like super hard at the banner, or like if you're on mobile, I don't think there's like anything that jumps out that tells me that this individual is at Ball State.
Well, yeah, and I think the biggest thing is what's missing right here.
What school association?
Yes, so make sure you go in your account, you go to education, and then you make sure that you put you're actively at Ball State, and then it'll pop up there. And if you're working with Ball State, which technically you are, even though y'all aren't getting paid, you're an employee at Ball State. I would include that down your LinkedIn as well. Your about section, I like, it's a lot better than mine. You talk about your major, you talk about your school and what you're aiming to do, your goals, where you want to work, the job fields you want to work. I actually really, really like your about. And LinkedIn does a really good job of just kind of letting you throw skills on your page, and so be it. So I actually really like that. And that's great. Don't mean to print that. Okay, somebody give me either an X or a LinkedIn. I'll take either or. We got time for maybe two more or one more.
It's got cool line on the Z.
On,
Twitter.
okay. Don't need to flex.
Now we don't got that.
Okay, all right. One more time.
Cool E line.
Cool E Live.
Yeah.
Fall back. Okay, good. So manager right there. Now, obviously, this is a banner. So there's a lot going on. I like the text to be more of a focus, but this is good. Like, you want to be involved in broadcast, right? So you don't only have a headshot. It's kind of a funny one. Now, would I like it to be maybe a little more zoomed in, a little more focus on your face? Yes. One good thing or one bad thing. Who wants to add? Y'all got to ride home together, so be careful what you're going to say.
What's a broadcast, bro?
I agree with that. I think
I'm a bro.
does that, cause I don't know if that means caster, play-by-play, color. I don't.
love.
Well,
are you sponsored by Taco Bell?
I'm an aficionado.
and that's a good point
Do
too.
you like the nacho fries?
Anyone else want to add something?
Well, you know Yanni.
Any other thoughts?
You can put the email in a different section. You don't have to put it as part of the bio. It just takes up.
Yeah, because Twitter allows you to add your email in the bottom, so it makes it a lot easier. But I do like having your Twitch right there. That's actually one of the best ways to plug your Twitch, to have it attached to your profile. That way you don't get marked as a bot by Big Zuckerberg. So, any last minute questions before I close this out? Okay, cool. So I want to show this at the very end, not to flex, but because I want you guys to understand that there are important factors. I didn't talk a lot about the stats because they don't matter as much. What were you gonna add?
I say, is that really like Twitter Premium?
Yeah, so this is, if you're actually serious about our space, and especially if you're a broadcasting member, like a producer, caster of any kind, I would heavily recommend paying for Twitter Premium. And I hate saying that, I hate shelling out for Twitter, but it is like absurdly useful. But obviously within this is within the last year, right? The numbers that I'm looking for are obviously impressions. These are people that I have appeared on their feed, on their page, on their recommendations, something 2 million in a year. That is awesome. But what's also a big shock is that this engagement rate, I talk all about engagement. Why do I have a 1.4 engagement rate? And I will say that because Twitter, the way it calculates engagement rate is unless you are getting almost a comment and a like for every single post you make, like every like and every comment from the same person every single time, then your engagement rate will just drop to the floor. And this averages out. So when you're looking at stats and you're looking for what's important, you're looking at your impressions, your replies, your profile visits. These are individual people, which means 9,000 people have seen my work and what I do. Engagements, these are likes, reposts, bookmarks are counted within this number. But again, you're looking at engagements, likes, replies, impressions, And then if you really want to get into the nitty gritty of the data, those profile visits and your active followers. Those are people who are consistently engaging with your account at least once a month, I believe is the analytic that Twitter uses for that. So, any other last minute questions before we get out of here? Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to work with you all over the convention weekend and to close out our student section. Please do feel free to reach out to me. My Discord and my email are there. I am a student, I am a senior. I want to be your friend, not your educator. So please feel free to reach out if you want any advice and or notes and or run some games or something like that sometime. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.